The heavy wooden door slammed shut behind Malik as his father's hand clamped down on his shoulder like a steel trap, shoving him into the circle of folding chairs arranged under harsh fluorescent lights in the community center outside Atlanta. "This is your last chance to be normal, son," his dad growled through clenched teeth, eyes burning with that familiar mix of disappointment and desperate faith. Malik's heart hammered against his ribs, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and cheap air freshener, while a dozen other men, some his age, some older, sat with heads bowed, avoiding eye contact. He had known this day was coming ever since his parents found the messages on his phone 2 weeks ago, the ones that exposed the truth he had hidden for years. He was gay, and in their strict Baptist world, that meant something broken that needed fixing. The counselor, a tall man with a clipboard and a smile that never reached his eyes, started the session with prayers and testimonials about healing through Christ. Malik's stomach twisted as stories poured out. Men claiming they had left their lifestyle behind after weeks of prayer and discipline. He wanted to bolt right then, but his mother's tear-streaked face from the doorway kept him glued to the seat. Across the circle, though, one guy caught his attention. Isaiah, with warm brown skin, close-cropped hair, and eyes that held a quiet defiance instead of shame. When their gazes locked during a break, Isaiah leaned over just enough to whisper, "They can't change what God made real. Don't let them win." Those words hit Malik like a lifeline in the storm, sparking the first flicker of hope he had felt in months. The rest of that first day blurred into group exercises and Bible verses twisted to condemn what Malik had always known was simply who he was. His family waited outside, ready to drive him home each night, reminding him this 2-week program was for his soul. By evening, back in his childhood bedroom in their suburban home, Malik lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying Isaiah's whisper. The pressure from his parents, the church community that had once embraced him as the promising graphic designer now viewed him as a project to save. It all crashed down, but that single connection in the room planted a seed. He didn't know Isaiah's story yet, but something told him he wasn't alone in this fight. Morning light filtered through the blinds as Malik's mother handed him a packed lunch for the second day at the program, her voice soft but edged with warning. "We're doing this because we love you, baby. You'll thank us one day." He nodded numbly, climbing into the car where his father barely spoke, the silence heavier than any sermon. At the center, the sessions intensified, role-playing scenarios to resist temptation, testimonials that made Malik's skin crawl with their forced certainty. He sat rigid, mind racing back to college days when he first admitted his feelings to himself, sketching late into the night in his dorm while hiding who he really was from everyone back home. During a paired discussion, the counselor assigned Isaiah as his partner. Up close, Isaiah's calm presence was magnetic. He shared just enough to reveal he was 27, studying counseling himself, and had come after his own family discovered his secret through a mutual friend's betrayal. "I'm here because they threatened to cut me off completely," Isaiah admitted quietly when the counselor stepped away, his voice steady but eyes revealing the same inner war Malik felt. They talked about the weight of expectations, the church picnics, the family barbecues in Atlanta's tight-knit black community where being different meant whispers and exclusion. Malik opened up for the first time in years about the panic attacks after his parents' confrontation, the way his dreams of a career in design now felt tainted by guilt. That afternoon, during a mandated reflection walk in the center's small garden, they lingered longer than allowed. Isaiah's stories of small rebellions, secret support groups online, late-night drives to clear his head, mirrored Malik's hidden journal entries. A misunderstanding flared when another participant overheard and reported them for inappropriate talk, leading to a stern warning from the counselor. Malik's chest tightened with fear, but Isaiah squeezed his shoulder briefly in the hallway, a silent promise that they were in this together. Back home that night, his parents grilled him over dinner about progress. And when Malik hesitated, his father slammed the table. "You walk away from this, you walk away from us." The threat hung in the air, but for the first time, Malik wondered if walking away might be the only way forward. By day 5, the program's tactics had sharpened into something sharper than prayers. Visualization exercises meant to rewire attractions, group confessions that left Malik raw and exhausted. He watched men break down in tears, claiming victory over feelings that Malik knew ran deeper than any sermon could touch. His own resolve wavered during a session where the counselor singled him out, asking him to renounce the lie of his identity in front of everyone. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he mumbled a half-hearted response, but inside, the conflict raged. Loyalty to family versus the truth screaming in his veins. Isaiah sat nearby, his subtle nod the only anchor keeping Malik from crumbling. A betrayal hit hard when Malik's best friend from church, who had promised secrecy, called his parents midweek to check on his soul, revealing more details than even they knew. The evening confrontation at home was brutal. Accusations flying, his mother sobbing that he was throwing away his future, his father declaring the family name stained. Malik stormed to his room, packing a small bag on instinct, heart pounding with the weight of potential loss. The next morning at the center, Isaiah noticed the tension immediately. Over a stolen moment in the break room, they shared deeper truths. Isaiah's own past relationship shattered by similar family pressure, his decision to pursue counseling to help others like them. Leaving isn't giving up, Isaiah said softly. It's choosing to live. That afternoon, during an intense group debate on biblical manhood, Malik's internal storm reached its peak. A participant's tearful story of success clashed violently with Malik's memories of genuine joy in quiet moments of self-acceptance. When the counselor pressed him for agreement, Malik stood up abruptly, voice trembling but clear. This isn't healing. It's hiding. The room fell silent. Isaiah's eyes shone with quiet pride as Malik walked toward the door. The bold step he had rehearsed in his mind for days finally real. His parents were called immediately, but he didn't wait. Stepping into the bright Atlanta sunlight outside the center, Malik felt the first true breath of freedom. Terrifying, uncertain, but undeniably his. The bus ride downtown blurred past familiar Atlanta streets, but everything felt different now that Malik had left the program 2 days early. His phone buzzed relentlessly with voicemails from his father, disappointment laced with ultimatums, and texts from his mother begging him to return before it's too late. He silenced it, staring at the skyline, the weight of sacrificed security pressing on his chest. No more family dinners, no safety net for his graphic design gigs that had paid the bills. At 24, he was suddenly adrift, crashing at a cheap motel with the little cash he had saved. The loneliness hit that first night, doubts whispering that maybe they were right, maybe he had thrown everything away for nothing. Isaiah's number, exchanged in a hurried moment before the walkout, became his lifeline. They met the next evening at a quiet coffee shop near Piedmont Park, the kind of place where conversations flowed without judgment. Isaiah listened as Malik poured out the fallout, the frozen bank account his parents controlled, the church friends who ghosted him overnight. I sacrificed the only life I knew, Malik admitted, voice cracking. Isaiah shared his own story of leaving home at 25, scraping by on odd jobs while finishing his degree, the nights of wondering if the pain was worth it. Their connection deepened over shared laughs about Atlanta's hidden queer-friendly spots and quiet admissions of past heartaches. No pressure, just understanding that felt like home for the first time. Society's gaze followed them everywhere. Sideways looks at the park when they walked together, whispers at job interviews where Malik's resume now carried the invisible stain of family disownment. He landed a part-time freelance gig designing logos for a small nonprofit, but the pay barely covered rent in his new studio apartment. Isaiah, working as a youth counselor at a community center, offered steady encouragement, helping Malik rebuild his portfolio and even introducing him to a support network of other gay men navigating similar journeys. Misunderstandings arose when Malik hesitated to label their growing closeness, fearing another betrayal, but Isaiah's patience chipped away at the walls. One rainy evening, sharing takeout on Malik's tiny balcony, Isaiah said simply, "You don't have to do this alone anymore." The words settled something deep inside Malik, igniting the slow bloom of trust. Months slipped by in a rhythm of hard-won independence. Malik's new life in Atlanta's vibrant Midtown neighborhood brought small victories. a full-time design contract with a local arts collective, friendships forged at weekend meetups where no one demanded he change. Yet the ache of family loss lingered like a shadow. A holiday card from his sister arrived unsigned, and late-night calls from his mother ended in tears and hang-ups. The internal crisis peaked during a heated argument with Isaiah over Malik's reluctance to fully commit, fearing that love meant repeating the pattern of sacrifice. "I left everything once," Malik confessed during a tense walk along the Beltline trail. "What if I lose you too?" Isaiah's response was gentle but firm, revealing his own sacrifices. Estranged parents, a career path chosen to heal what had hurt him. Their bonds strengthened through honest talks, turning friendship into something deeper, marked by quiet dates at museums and late-night drives where laughter replaced doubt. Societal pressures tested them further when a conservative client discovered Malik's social media posts about Pride events and pulled a major project, forcing him to hustle harder. Isaiah stood by him through the setback, offering his couch when bills stacked up and sharing stories of his own professional battles as an openly gay counselor. A pivotal moment came at a community vigil for victims of hate crimes. Standing shoulder to shoulder, Malik felt the full weight of his growth. The boy who once hid now spoke publicly about his journey. But betrayal loomed again when an old church acquaintance spread rumors online, trying to discredit Malik's new life. The confrontation with Isaiah over how to respond nearly fractured them, highlighting the ongoing cost of authenticity. Through it all, Malik learned that real strength came from choosing himself daily, even when it hurt. The Atlanta skyline glittered under the evening lights as Malik stood on the rooftop of his new apartment building, Isaiah's hand warm in his. 2 years had passed since that defiant walkout from the conversion program, and the man staring back in the reflection was unrecognizable, confident, grounded, building a career that celebrated his full self. Family reconciliation remained distant. Occasional texts from his sister hinted at softening hearts, but the core rift endured, a reminder of the price paid for truth. Isaiah had moved in months earlier, their shared space filled with sketches, books on identity, and the quiet rituals of a love that had weathered every storm. Together they volunteered at youth centers, mentoring young men facing the same crossroads Malik once had, turning personal pain into purpose. High points came in unexpected ways. A successful gallery show featuring Malik's art inspired by his journey, Isaiah's promotion to lead counselor. Yet challenges persisted. Navigating holidays alone, facing lingering prejudice at work events, the internal voices that occasionally whispered doubt. Through it all, their relationship bloomed into something profound, built on mutual respect and the freedom to love openly. Malik reflected often on that first whispered encouragement in the therapy circle, how one bold choice had rippled into an entire new world. True or false? Walking away from family is always the only path to authentic love and self-acceptance.